1,400 sword matches over 7 days. Yamaoka Tesshu's hands bled through the handle. People called it excessive, reckless. He became a legendary swordsman, one of the great masters of the Meiji era, not despite the extreme discipline. Because of it, 3 other masters did the same thing, all called obsessive. All discovered something on the other side that changes how discipline actually works. We're breaking down what they found, and why everyone will call yours unhealthy too, starting with what they're actually protecting. Part 1. The Comfort Mirror. Think about the last time you got obsessed with something, really obsessed. Not because some guru told you to, not because it was on your vision board. You just couldn't stop thinking about it. Maybe it was a business idea, a workout program, learning a skill, building something, reading about a topic. Hours disappeared. You looked up and it was 2 a.m. and you weren't even tired. You skipped meals, forgot to check your phone. Time moved different. And then someone noticed. You're working too much. You need balance. This is getting unhealthy. So you listened. You dialed it back, got normal again. Biggest mistake you ever made. Takuan Soho lived this. Zen monk, 1600s Japan. His meditation practice became so intense, so consuming, that other monks started talking. Not because he was doing anything wrong, because his dedication made their practice look ordinary. He didn't force himself to meditate more. He couldn't stop. The same way you can't stop thinking about that thing you're obsessed with. His brothers grew uncomfortable. The whispers started. This is excessive. He's losing balance. But Takuan understood something they didn't. This wasn't discipline. This was who he was. He kept going. Eventually wrote texts that influenced samurai culture for centuries. The unfettered mind, still studied today. The monks who called his practice excessive, history forgot their names. Here's what nobody tells you about discipline. Real discipline isn't forcing yourself to do things you hate. That's just self-torture with good marketing. Real discipline is protecting the obsession that comes naturally to you. You already know what yours is. That thing where time disappears, where 14 hours feels like 4, where you're not tired, you're alive. For Tesshu, it was the sword. 8 hours felt like 2. For Hokusai, it was the brush. 70 years old, saying everything before was practice. For you, maybe it's building, creating, training, studying, solving problems. Doesn't matter what it is. What matters is what happened when someone saw you. They got uncomfortable because you were disappearing into something, going somewhere they can't follow. You're obsessed. This isn't normal. You need to slow down. So you did. You pulled back. You found balance. You became normal again. And that obsession, that thing that made you feel alive, you buried it because someone else was uncomfortable with how deep you were going. Kano Jigoro broke bones training multiple times, trained through injuries that should have stopped him. Not because he was trying to be tough, not because he read it in a book, because the idea of not training felt worse than the pain. People called it reckless, called it obsessive. For Kano, it was just him, his natural state, the thing that came easy even when it looked impossible to everyone else. You have that thing too. You know exactly what it is. You felt it before, that pull, that obsession. And the moment you started following it, someone told you to stop. They didn't say it directly. They said, "Don't you think that's a bit much?" They said, "You're going to burn out." They said, "I'm worried about you." Translation, your obsession makes my comfort look like a choice, and I need you to come back down so I can feel okay about not having one. They're not protecting you. They're protecting themselves from the question you make them ask. What if I had something I cared about this much? But here's where it gets tricky, because sometimes people are right. Sometimes you are burning out. Sometimes obsession does turn destructive. So how do you know? How do you tell the difference between the obsession that leads to mastery and the one that leads to destruction? There's a way to tell, a test, not some ancient secret, just observation. And it's the only way to know if you should double down or pull back. Part 2, the function test. Tesshu's hands bled every morning, for years. Every morning, same ritual, unwrap the cloth, look at the cuts, press his thumb into them, then ask, "Can I still feel the blade?" If yes, train. If nerve damage, stop. The pain wasn't the signal, the function was. Most people confuse these two. They think pain means stop. Discomfort means damage. Sore means injury. Tesshu knew different. Bleeding hands that could still grip, that's growth. Bleeding hands that couldn't? That's injury. Here's your test. 3 questions, same ones all 5 men used. Question 1, can I still do the thing at quality? Not does it hurt? Wrong question. The question is, does it still work? Your legs burn at mile 8. Can you still run with good form? Yes. Keep going. Form breaking down? That's your body telling you something real. Question 2, is my mind sharper or duller? Hokusai painted until his hands cramped, but his lines got cleaner, sharper, more precise. That's the difference. If you're grinding but the quality drops, you're not training. You're just tired. Question 3, am I running toward something or away from something? This one's the killer. Tesshu ran toward mastery. Some people run toward discipline because they're running from themselves. Big difference. If you're working 14 hours because time disappears and you love it, that's obsession. If you're working 14 hours to prove something to your ex, that's avoidance. Know the difference. Check these 3 every day, not once a month. Daily. Function good, mind sharp, running toward, then double down. Function dropping, mind foggy, running from pain. Adjust, not stop, adjust. Different thing. This is how you protect your obsession without destroying yourself. But here's what happens next. The thing nobody warns you about. You start checking these 3 questions. You realize you're fine, you're not breaking, you're building, so you keep going. And one by one, people start leaving. Part 3, the isolation filter. Something happens when you stop explaining yourself. People drift away, not dramatically, quietly. Your boys stop calling as much, not out of hate. They just don't know what to say anymore. You're on a different frequency now. Your family gets worried. You've changed. You're too serious. We miss the old you. What they mean is, we miss the you that made us feel fine about staying the same. That girl who said she wanted an ambitious man, she did, until she saw what real ambition looks like. Weekends working, evenings studying, an obsession that doesn't pause for anyone. You care more about this than us. Maybe that's true. Maybe that has to be true. Ushiba Morihei got sick in his early 40s. Serious illness, beriberi, pleurisy, the kind that puts most men in bed for months. He modified his training, lighter, slower, but he never stopped. People thought he was crazy, pushing through illness like that. He lived to 86, created an entire martial art, Aikido, still practiced worldwide. The people who told him to stop, gone, forgotten. Here's the truth about isolation. It's not the price you pay for discipline. It's the filter. The wrong people can't come where you're going. They're not built for it. Your obsession doesn't fit their comfort. Let them go. Because when you stop pulling back, when you stop making yourself smaller to make them comfortable, something starts to happen. Not immediately, not dramatically, but it happens. Stories describe Tesshu training so intensely, so relentlessly, that something in him shifted. Not in one moment. Over time, through thousands of matches, endless repetition. His body moved before his mind could think. That's what's waiting on the other side of isolation. Not loneliness, something else entirely. Part 4, the consciousness shift. Tesshu trained for decades, thousands of matches, endless repetition with the sword. But the breakthrough didn't come during a fight. It came during meditation, age 45, sitting in silence like he'd done thousands of times before. And something shifted. His mind emptied, not like falling asleep, like a door opening. The constant noise, the thinking, the trying, all of it just stopped. The Japanese call this mushin, no mind, not something you learn. Something that happens when you've gone so deep into practice that there's nothing left to hold on to. You can't force it, can't schedule it, can't buy a course on it. You earn it through volume, through showing up so many times that your ego has nowhere left to hide. Hokusai knew this, the artist. Late in his life, after decades of work, thousands of drawings, he said something that changes everything. All I have done before the age of 70 is not worth taking into account. 70 years old, a lifetime of work behind him, and he's saying it was all just preparation. Not because he was being humble, because something shifted in him. His hand moved differently now. Lines appeared on paper that he didn't consciously plan. The art was happening through him instead of by him. That's not talent. That's what volume does to consciousness. Takuan wrote about the mind like water, still, clear, reflecting everything without distortion. Most people's minds are like storm clouds, thick, dark, can't see through them, trapped inside their own thoughts. But enough practice, enough time sitting with yourself, and the clouds thin. You start seeing clearly, not controlling your thoughts, just observing them. Kano trained so relentlessly, pushed through so many injuries, that his understanding of his own body became different. He knew when to push, when to adjust, when pain meant growth, and when it meant damage. Not from books, from thousands of hours of paying attention. See what's happening here? These men weren't just getting better at their skills. Their relationship with consciousness itself changed. Tesshu spent so long with the sword that his mind learned to get out of the way. Hokusai spent so long drawing that the line knew where to go before he did. Takuan spent so long in meditation that he could observe his mind instead of being trapped in it. Kano spent so long training that his body became a language he could read. Here's what this means for you. Comfortable discipline lets you hide. You can work on yourself forever. Read the books, watch the videos, make the plans. You're busy, but you're not facing anything. Real discipline, the kind that makes people uncomfortable, removes that option. When you're deep into your obsession, when you've done it so many times you've lost count, something has to give. Your ego can't maintain the performance anymore. You start seeing yourself, actually seeing yourself, not the story you tell, not the version you perform for others, the real you. And that's what terrifies people, not your hours, not your intensity. The fact that you're becoming awake while they're staying asleep. They can feel it. They don't know how to name it, but they know something's different about you, and it makes them ask a question they don't want to answer. What am I avoiding by staying comfortable? So they need you to stop, to come back, to be normal again. But you can't, because you've seen something, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So here's what you actually do, the practice, not the theory, the thing that creates this shift. Part 5. The Singular Line Protocol. Look, I'm not going to tell you Tesshu followed some 5-step system. He didn't. None of these men had a protocol. They just lived it. But studying them, you start seeing patterns, things you can apply, not because they wrote them down, because their lives show you what works. Here's what I've seen work. For me, for people I know who've actually transformed, you pick one thing, one. Not because Tesshu only did sword work. He didn't. He did calligraphy, Zen, politics, all of it. But when you look at his life, the sword was the center. Everything else orbited that. That's what you need, a center. One thing you're building your life around. Maybe it's your business, your training, your craft. Doesn't matter what it is. What matters is this. You need to go deep enough with it that time starts moving different when you're doing it. Not variety, not balance, depth. Do the thing the same way, daily. Let yourself get bored with it. Let your mind try to make it interesting. Then let that fade too. Because here's what happens. Eventually, your ego stops trying to control it. It gets tired of managing every rep, every word, every moment. And when it stops trying, that's when something shifts. Now here's the critical part. How do you know you're not just grinding yourself into dust? One question, daily. Can I still do this at quality? Kano trained through injuries multiple times, but he was always adapting, adjusting, not the intensity, the approach. Sore muscles that can still move with good form? That's growth. Pain that makes you compensate, that breaks down your technique? That's real damage. Most people can't tell the difference. They quit at discomfort, or they push through actual injury and call it dedication. Both are wrong. You're looking for one thing. Can you still do the thing well? Yes? Continue. No? Adjust how you do it, not whether you do it. Now the timeline. I'm not going to lie to you and say it happens in 90 days. Maybe it does. Maybe it takes 2 years, maybe 5. Tesshu had his breakthrough at 45, after decades of practice. Hokusai said his real work started at 70. So when's yours coming? I don't know. Nobody does. What I do know is this. The people who quit after 3 weeks because they don't see results never find out. The people who keep showing up, checking that one question daily, observing what happens, they find out. Here's the part nobody wants to hear. People are going to say things. They're going to call it too much. What you do with that is up to you. I'm not going to tell you to ignore everyone. Sometimes people are right. Sometimes you do need to adjust. But most of the time, they're just uncomfortable. And that discomfort is theirs, not yours. You know the difference by checking the question. Can I still do this at quality? If yes, their discomfort isn't your problem. If no, if your work is suffering, your health is breaking down, your mind is foggy, then listen, adjust. But if you're sharp, clear, improving, keep going. That's not a protocol Takuan wrote down. It's not advice Tesshu gave. It's just what happens when you study people who actually did the thing. Pick your center. Go deep with it. Check the quality daily. Ignore noise that doesn't match reality. That's it. Simple? Yes. Easy? No. But it's what actually works. Everything else is just theory. This is the practice. 4 men, different centuries, different crafts. Tesshu, Takuan, Hokusai, Kano. All went deeper than anyone around them thought was reasonable. All discovered something, not through balance, through depth. Tesshu died in 1888, still studied today. Takuan died in 1645. His writings still taught. Hokusai died at 89, his art in museums worldwide. Kano died in 1938, judo in the Olympics. History remembers the ones who went deep, the ones who found their thing and disappeared into it, the ones who played it safe, the ones who kept it balanced. Gone, forgotten. You're going to face that choice, comfortable or deep, normal or obsessed. Most people choose comfortable, then spend their lives wondering what they could have been. You're not most people. Pick your thing, go deep, and let history decide if you were right.